Alright, this is the transmission tunnel that I originally came with my car. As you can see, it's really not in the best of shape. And stitching and whatnot from previous repairs previous owners had done. Looks like the spawn of Frankenstein. So I've got the option of repairing it, replacing it with either ABS or fiberglass, or making my own. And so for the sake of the adventure and learning and honing some metal shaping skills, I opted for making it out of steel. So here we go. Alright, my first thing was to try and hold it together somehow to give myself a shape, hence the duct tape. In the end, it really didn't work very well, but it was a worthy try. I started with the steel on the front. I figured that was as good a place to any. It's quite a complex shape, as you can see. So I started with those two front pieces. And here I'm building one of the sides. I've got that pipe clamped down to give me that bend you see there and one more coming up. And there you go at the back where the clamp is. You can see the two bends. And here I am working on the piece on the top. And I'm trying to figure out a shape for that corner. I've got to go through and make a round corner. So that was an interesting job to figure out. And there we go. I've got the corners. And I think what I did, I cut that corner, and I don't have a shot bag at this point. I should get one, but I don't have one. Anyway, I just took an old glove and went to the lawn. I put the glove on the lawn and hit that piece of metal with my ball peen hammer till I got the shape that I want, and finished it off in my stump, my mini stump. I've got a picture of that coming up in a bit. I'll show you. Alright, and a couple of self-tapping screws, top view, and a quick test fit to see how things are looking. Laying out some sheet metal for the other side. And there's the other side, plus a little bit of paper there to make a template for the rear top. And there you go, I've got it rough cut. A little bit of tack welds. Alright, now I got this complex shape here to fill in. There you can see me starting to work on the piece. It's always interesting doing projects like this. And then you can see right there, got this side basically the shape the way I like it. And again, a test fit. And there you go for now. Alright, here's another quick side-by-side comparison. I'm going to start working on the front around the shifter. Here is my mini stump. I just made a depression with my angle grinder to shapes that I thought I would need. I started making an impression in a sheet of metal. Wasn't exactly sure how to go about working this, but I figured I'd make the shape and then cut the hole. Working it out, rubber mallet there. And then I didn't really show much in between here and there, but that didn't work out so well, so I cut the hole to the size that I need and rough shape and started forming it on the edge of my stump there. And this is what I came up with. You can see it's nice and rough. So I took it over to my mini benchtop English wheel and started smoothing out the rough. And comparison, you can see the distance between the front edge of the hole and the front edge of the piece is considerably different. So I've got to rethink my method on this one. That's a lot of metal to shrink, and I don't quite have the setup to do that. So I trimmed it back and started over. and I started making it work a little bit better there after I more stump and English wheel. And there you go. Side view of it. Quick test fit. Tack welded in place. And it looks like it's going to work. Alright, now I got to figure out that transition from the top down to the piece that I just ran on the wheel. So I'm working out a rough angle here. And there you go. That's a good idea of what it's going to look like. And I cut out a hole around the part that I wheeled so the two slide together. And now to make the transition, I've just got to gently bend up that flange with a tipping tool that I made, a steel rod with a slot cut in it, and you just slowly work your way around. You don't want to bend everything all at once. If you bend it all at once, you'll really deform it. So I just slowly worked it around the edge, test fit it, and the first try, it was almost perfect, but as you can see, you know, it's not an even equal gap all the way around. But it does the trick for me. And then there I've got it all tack welded. I'm going to have to make those two other corners there. And there you go, another top view. It's coming right along. Almost looks like I know what I'm doing. Another test fitting here, coming right along. There's a close-up of the section around the gear shifter. Fits well. Went through and welded a little bit more, dressed the welds. And here I'm working on the corners. Little tiny rounded triangles, basically, is what they amounted to be. Tack welded. All dressed. Now I've just got this back corner here that needs to be touched up. That was a fun shape. I use a 1/2-inch copper pipe, flatten it, use it as a backer for large gaps and holes and things. It works great, plus it's flexible. You can pretty much shape it to anything that you want, and it's got a nice convenient built-in handle. Alright, now I'm working on the rear flange that mounts against the bulkhead with a template for test fitting out of masonite. I can move that piece by itself in and out of the car much easier than I can the entire piece. Plus I can see what adjustments I need to make without having to do them blind. And I had to make some adjustments, so there we go, fitting in a little wedge that I had to cut. And you can see I had to tilt that back end up just a little bit. And there's my first attempt at the back flange. I cut it short, but I didn't want to redo all of that, so I just added some extra tabs at the bottom. And there it is, test fit in place. You can see there's a gap at the back that needs addressing. And there we go, basically all together. You can see that my hole is now an oval, primarily because I had it too far back and I had to extend the hole a little bit forward. I probably could have gone through and filled in the back side of that to make it round again, but in the end it's really not necessary. All of this is going to be covered by carpet anyway. Alright, here I'm starting on the floor flanges. Tack weld them in. Got some rough holes of where they're going to fit. I'm not entirely sure if this is going to be correct, so tack welds are the ideal way to go here. Had to add just a little bit to the bottom there. You see my cut line marked there by the blue tape, and the little bit that I added. And then I've got my flanges back on. Got it flipped over. I had to add a little bit to my hole on the front. And you can see my favorite tools there. Just working through the welds and grinding them down and making them look decent. Checking for plum, peaches, apples, whatever. And there we go. I need to redo this piece, so I had to take it off and doing cardboard aided design there. Tack weld that piece in. And I've got that front piece welded on right there. Test fitting again. That's a pain in the neck getting it all fit. Not much room in there. And as you can see, that's where both pieces need to be, so I've got to add a little bit. So there we go. Tack welded. Dressed it out. And I had a little too much, so I've got it marked for cutting. Checking for flatness here. as long as my driveway's flat. And it was good enough. And there we go. Basically the completed product, side by side with the old original one. There's the inside. I could go through and dress those welds, but nobody's ever going to see them. Test fit in there. Don't mind my fuel tank. And at this point, I've got a hole I've cut out for access to the starter. And then I cut some plate, tapped it, and then I just hold it into place with some Allen head screws. Thumb screws may actually turn out to be the way to go. And then where I've got the blue tape at the front, I'm going to cut that front end off. But there you can see access to not only the starter, but the slave cylinder. That's why I made it so large. That way I can do it without taking the tunnel out. Now I've got the front cut off. This will give access to the front U-joint. And there again, welded in some plates, tapped them, and held together with Allen screws. All in place, checking for fit. And then I went through and sprayed some rubberized undercoating. And then I've got it temporarily set in place. I need to make a little bit of adjustment here. And so you can see the front end there, get at the U-joint, without removing the transmission tunnel. Some more welds, had to add a little bit. And at this point I'm pretty satisfied with the way it all works. And there we go. Primer and body color in the new and the old, and installed and test fitting with a piece of carpet. And I do apologize for no videos. I thought I had a couple, but everything is still, but that's okay. Still gets the point across. Hope you enjoyed this. This is a project that from beginning to end took me roughly a year from when I started it to when I finished it. But I wasn't able to dedicate 100% of my time to it. Even at that, I had way too many hours into this. It would have been a lot easier to buy a plastic one, but not as much fun. Till next time.